Hello and welcome to Matters of the Heart. Today we are going to talk about marriage, longevity, comfort and companionship. All the things that we settle into after years of being married. It's the things that people hope for when they start their journey with their partners. Today we have with us Her Highness Maharani Radhikaraje Gaekwad. She's married to His Highness Maharaja Samarjit Singh Rao Gaekwad of Baroda. Before she tied the knot, she was a journalist. She now looks after the digitalization of the assets at her palace. She's also a connoisseur of traditional style and fashion and is also a patron of the Heritage Trust in Baroda. Joining us from New Delhi is Paresh. He is a painter, a sculptor, a filmmaker and a photographer. He is a recipient of a Padma Shri and is married to fellow artist Jayashree Burman. When you hear Jindal, you think of steel and strength. Joining us from New Delhi is Deepika Jindal. She's on the board of various family-run companies and is also a director at JS Lifestyle. Her own brand, Artinox, epitomizes style in stainless steel. Anuradha Gupta joins us from San Francisco. She is the CEO and founder of Vows for Eternity, a matchmaker par excellence. She is the bridge between the older and the younger generations. Today, we are going to discuss the pillars of marriage. Are they still strong? And do youngsters believe in them? Anuradha, I begin with you. What, according to you, are the key pillars when it comes to marriage?
For me, I've always believed in the sanctity, in the sacredness of marriage. And there's so much that really goes into that space of marriage. But if I was to crystallize everything, I would, and the pillars, if you like, my 4 pillars would be love, friendship, trust, and respect. And it's about being with somebody who just gets you, who has your back, with whom you can just be yourself, somebody with whom you can put down your roots, and yet where you give each other the space to fly. That for me is, marriage and the fundamentals.
Maharani ji, what according to you is the one pillar that is essential for a strong relationship or marriage?
I agree with whatever Manuji said. It's absolutely, bang on. But just to add to that, I would say communication is key. The fact that there is a will and a desire to be together. It's not always that you are on the same page throughout your marriage. You will always, as you're growing individually as well as you're growing into the marriage, you will always pull and push in different directions. So I think the desire to be with each other, that level of commitment and communication.
Deepika, what do you believe?
I think a lot has been said, but I feel trust is very, very important in a relationship. Of course, communication and space and the flexibility in a relationship is very, very critical also for a long life of happiness and marriage,
Mr. Maity, what according to you is a prerequisite or the edifice of a strong relationship or marriage?
As everybody said, the communication, I think proper communication is very, very important in a family life. Shared sense of purpose, similar vision is very, very important. And values. The value is very important, not only in marriage life, in every aspect of life.
Maharani ji, you belong to a royal family and you got married into one. For the young generation, are they following suit or are they changing the rules?
Well, I think, I had an arranged marriage. And I've been obviously happy with the choice that I made and my parents recommended to me. But I do understand times are changing. And what we wish to raise our girls to be are independent women who have the wisdom and understanding to make the right choice for them, who believe in themselves, have that much self-confidence and exposure, and go ahead and make the best choice for themselves, being fully aware of the fact that they do have a legacy and they've enjoyed the privileges of that legacy, and they must also understand the responsibilities that come with that. But yes, the choice is entirely theirs.
Deepika and Mr. Maity, do you think there is a certain unspoken hierarchy in Indian homes as well and in marriages? And do you think that's changing now?
Well, of course, in my times, there was this unspoken hierarchy because I come from a very traditional Marwari household where it was understood that the husband has an upper hand in a relationship and in a marriage, and you have to go there and sort of be there with him, along with him, but he's really the boss of the house. And I think that's how we were brought up. So we actually, sort of followed that without questioning. And that's how we sort of worked towards our marriage. But today, of course, it's changed a lot. I have a son who's married, and I see there's a completely equal equation in their relationship, and it's very different to what it was with mine. So definitely there is a shift in marriages now. I see that difference.
All right. Mr. Maity, what's your opinion?
Time is changing, everything is changing. We are all changing. I believe to forget this little small hidden ego. Ego eats up everything, it ruins everything. When I paint a painting, I should leave all the egos. I should paint like I wanted to paint, forget all my preconceived ideas and thoughts. And I should not think that I am the only artist. There are other artists, they are all similar. The equality is there. So very important is equality today's time.
Anu, I'm fascinated. How did you decide to become a matchmaker? At which point did you realize it's your calling? And what, according to you, is your USP?
I think matchmaking really found me rather than the other way around. And a few years ago, so I actually come from a business background, and I was after my business school and, all of that, I was in the corporate world for a little bit. And I never thought, if I look back, I don't think I ever thought I would become a matchmaker. I think that was the thought never even crossed. It came into my orbit of thought. It really, it happened because of my own personal experience, I think. That's where the seed really, started. I've been out of India for so many years, and I was in London. I was living in London those years. And at some stage I had I had a switch, and I thought I was ready for marriage. And I always thought that the day I get ready, somebody will just walk through and, knock on my door, and I'll meet the person I want to be with. And the reality is none of that really happened. Parents are concerned, as parents always will be. But I think there's so much changing. The world is changing. Kids move away from homes. There's only that much parents can do sitting in another country. They were doing their bit. I was meeting people. I was talking to people. I just didn't feel that was the way I should do things. To me, it seemed more like an exchange of, traditionally it was more an exchange of biodata. This is my age, this is my height, this is my weight, this is my educational qualification. Fantastic, great if it's a job application. But in this case, it just really wasn't. And for me, it wasn't working out. For me, I wanted to know what the person is like. I wanted to give a sense of who I am as a person. And as I wasn't, finding the way to do that, I wanted somebody to be able to, how do I translate myself into paper? So that's when the seed really started. I think some years of, business school, degree in psychology, economics, and, all of that. I think all of that came together at some point. When I started this, also I feel over the years, somewhere in between the East meets West, like I said, I've been out for so many years. So that is something that has really helped me along the way. The members that we have, they are globally traveled, educated across the world, all of that. So I think there's a lot of relatability. It's very easy. It's not work for me. I can sit across the table, have a cup of coffee, meeting, whatever, and just have a conversation, trying to get to know someone. I think I'm also a bridge between the parents. I'm somewhere in between the parents and the kids. So I can understand the parents' point of view. I can understand the kids' point of view. And it's very, effortlessly it sort of comes together in my head, because I think the best training is when you go through something yourself. And in this case, I did. So it was, and I didn't learn it. I experienced it, and it just reflects in what I do.
Deepika, you mentioned your son and his wife are equal partners in their marriage. Do you reckon he saw that at home and decided to replicate it in his own relationship?
I think in my times, the relationship was not exactly very equal. You develop that equality as you go ahead. And I think children are very smart. They understand what a relationship is, and the commitment level is when it's very strong and very good. They want their marriages to work, and they learn how to balance each other. So I think it's about what they've seen and what they know. And if you really want your marriage to work, you sort of bring it and do the best you can.
Mr. Maity, you have a 30-year-old son who is married. What advice did you give him?
I always believe with friendship. It's very interesting. We talk like we are two friends. I never wanted to impose anything to him. And like I will come back from my studio and I will keep my shoe outside. I never told him that you have to keep your shoe outside. He does automatically. So what we act at home, they learn, he learns. And I have seen that they really learn beautifully if you don't impose anything.
Maharani ji, you have 2 teenage children. You got married young. What kind of advice would you give them? And do you think they'll follow your footsteps?
I think their path will be different. Yes, I had a short courtship, but I've had a successful marriage. So, but it doesn't have to work that way with my children. I just want them to be raised as discerning girls who can make the right choices. Of course, my advice to them would be that don't depend on a man or the marriage as a creeper does onto a tree. I think you have to look at individual growth as much as a growth of the marriage. That one must always evolve as a person, develop passion, stay, career, and be your own person. Because a marriage is of course there and should always be. You will from a couple develop into a family, and the dynamics will change and the priorities will change. But at the end of it, you must enjoy your own company and be proud of what you have achieved at the end of the day.
Courtships can go 2 ways. They can either work for you, you find out who the person is, or they can be counterproductive. What do you recommend? How long should a courtship really be? Anu?
I definitely think there needs to be a time period that 2 people take to get to know each other, especially in today's time. That's really important. How much is enough? It's very tough to say. I think only those 2 people know when they feel that level of confidence and comfort with each other and in each other. Probably about 6 months to maybe about a year or 18 months is probably the right time. But anything more than that, I feel, in my opinion, can be counterproductive.
Deepika?
I definitely feel courtship is very important, and especially in today's time. And if it's an arranged marriage, definitely, because it's about knowing each other well enough to tie that knot and to make that commitment. And as Anu said, at least 6 months, if the time period is there for them to meet and, sort of decide, and there's no pressure coming from family. Because a lot of times I see around us, parents and grandparents are not very happy if the courtship is too long and they are not deciding. And I feel that it's a lifelong commitment, and to know each other well before they get married, I mean, as much as you can, is very critical for a relationship. And so I would definitely agree to having a courtship before. And of course, it depends on the children in the end, how long they want to take and how sure they are of each other to take that leap of faith.
Mr. Maity?
Yes, very, very important courtship. Earlier days, even today's, we are all evolving with the time. Time is changing. And it is very important to give the space to understand each other, understand their own physics, chemistry, and their mistakes to rectify. Otherwise, it jumbles everything.
I have a question for all of you. Is your spouse your best friend? Maharani ji?
Yes, friendship is an underlying factor, very, very essential as a foundation for any relationship. But one must understand that we are now living in a world where we are putting all our expectations from that one person. Earlier, there was almost like a little community or a village that fulfilled all the needs of a marriage in terms of, whether it was child rearing, whether it was, career, whether it was helping in the kitchen, or if you needed, to just cry out to someone. Now we are looking at our husband as our best friend or as a wife, right? And they must fulfill all our needs. Must be the best husbands, best fathers, must be the best chefs, must compliment you, must look good, must, be very popular with your friends. So, these are very, very unrealistic expectations to have from one individual. So I think, yes, a friendship is the foundation, but we all change and adapt and evolve as people. And two people may not be on the same page all the time, like I said. So it's very important that you communicate, have a good connection, and you like each other and keep working at it. So friendship is great, but I don't want to go for every movie run with my husband or every shopping trip with my husband. I'm happy to do those few chores with other friends of mine.
All right. Deepika, should your spouse be your best friend? Yes or no?
Well, I would say yes and no, because there are certain things you would love to do with your husband, and that kind of friendship is different to some kinds of friendship which you do with your girlfriends, like how Maharani ji said that, movies and, you have certain interesting topics you like to discuss, which your husband may not even understand where you're coming from. And it may just go the other way. So I just feel that, of course, the base of any relationship is friendship and sharing. So, and you can be as open and frank with your husband than any other person, actually. But I feel there are areas in your life where you need a friend other than your husband.
Mr. Maity?
Any day, she is my best friend. And very interesting, sometimes last 30 years, we paint together. Together means under one roof, one room, but we have a space and we are friends. Like she will ask me, I will ask her something, and we'll share something.
Wonderful. Anu?
I think, I have to agree with what Deepika said and what Maharani said. I think it's husband being my best friend. Yes, I think he is. So, and I really value that.
Well, all of you can participate in this poll. All you have to do is head to our page on Facebook or Instagram and vote. What is the right age to get married? Anu?
I think the right age is 26 to 32. But the right time is when you meet somebody you don't want to live without.
But why is the right age between 26 to 32?
People grow together, yet they are at that age where they know what they want from life. They're very well aware of what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what they want from the other person, what they want from life. So I think there's a lot of clarity. There's a fair bit of maturity also, which I think is very important to sustain a relationship, to grow a relationship, to be in a relationship that is needed. And I think that's really the sweet spot between knowing yourself and yet, not being too set in your ways and sharing life with somebody and creating your own space where two people are encouraging each other to be better versions of who they are.
Deepika, what is your view? What's the perfect age to get married?
It's a very tough question, I feel, because I have two kids, a son who's already settled and a daughter who's yet to find her soulmate, as they call it. But I think it's more about how prepared the person is to be willing to settle down, because it's about really how ready you are for marriage. And I've seen in my family and in the society and community I'm in, where very young kids have got married and they're very happy, and there are some who are still finding their life partner. So I think it's all about the individual now. It's not about the age. I mean, it's about, as what Anu said, really, really resonated really well with me, that it's the right time when the child is ready to be willing to settle and is mature enough to go into a relationship. Although I do feel when you're younger, if you're going in for an arranged marriage or any relationship, you're more adjusting or you're more malleable. While as you get older, you get a little more rigid and a little more particular about a lot of things. So it may get a little more difficult for you to sort of settle in a relationship. So I think that's just the minus point of getting married a little later.
Mr. Maity.
Yes, Vano, it is correct that should be a correct age to get married, but again, not correct. Because, see, monsoon comes exact on time. Summer comes on time. Summer does not come in winter. But in marriages, there are also issues. You will see there are people, they have got married at the age of 60. They are very happily adjusted. So people can get married in different ages. But of course, as I said in the beginning, the right age, the right time is very, very important. I got married late. So it is very, very subjective other way also.
Maharani ji.
I think I'm in agreement with all of them, but only to add to that depends on what you're wanting from your marriage. If you're looking just for companionship, then any age is a good age to start. The later the better, because you already know yourself and you're more sure through your experiences who you want to share the rest of your life with. If you're looking to start a family, yes, I would say 26 onwards is a good age, at least for a girl to start thinking of marrying, so that she settles into the marriage well before she goes into having children. Because what happens usually in courtship is that the individuals are meeting. The dynamics of the family are different. You're not really meeting with your, to future in-laws or the wider family. So, even though you may have a courtship or you may have a love marriage, one still needs to settle into that, and you must allow yourself that time, that transition from a couple to a family.
So I do want to add a little point that I do know a couple of women who have married in their 40s and also had children. So you don't need to be just Madonna or Janet Jackson to conceive and have a baby in your late 40s. So yes. All right, moving on. How involved should families be in the lives of a newly married couple? Take us through your own personal story, and have you behaved differently towards your daughter-in-law or son-in-law? Maharani ji, I begin with you.
Well, we were brought together by our respective parents, and I've seen that through they've been very, very supportive of the whole process through our marriage, and it's wonderful because there's no judgment there. We are all on the same page. We have chosen each other collectively, and we work towards that family life together. In India, family is a big part of how the dynamics of a marriage are too. And when you know that your spouse is appreciated by your parents and in also respects and takes care of their family, both ways. I mean, even my husband does that for my parents. We are just two sisters, so I see my husband being also very supportive, and that always that's nice. I think the family can play a very, very important supportive, wise role in the dynamics of a marriage.
Deepika?
I sort of got married in a big joint family, and I think it's just the traditional Indian homes where you sort of go in and you sort of find a space for yourself. Everybody is very supportive, but I think you have to find your equation in a larger family, and you make those adjustments with each other, and the respect and your in-laws were like larger than life in your life. So you were sort of more in awe and in respect of them, and you would sort of follow whatever they said. And so there was this no questioning in that times in which I got married. At least that was how I sort of followed in my marriage. But when I see with my kids, I think there's much more ease, much more sort of freedom and space, because I understand, and I think kids also would like to have their space. It's more of a equality kind of relationship now, and I don't think we are so dependent on our daughter-in-laws to do things for us. We are very independent ourselves. I think there is a lot more ease and much more openness and friendship in today's times, at least with me and my daughter-in-law.
Mr. Maity.
So far, very good, God's grace. Parents and in-laws are there, they are all parents. Neither I treat them, they are my in-laws, neither my wife. And they were always very supportive, very, very, helpful to us. That, well, you do your own work, and better to, get involved more in your work, because both of us are artists. So they really never interfered that way, So we really could evolve ourselves with our original taste, with our own ability and atmosphere. And I think that's very, very important. And for a joint family, or even for a nuclear family today.
Well, it's time for me to end the show. But before that, if any parting pearls of wisdom?
Marriage it's a journey, there is really, it's like every time there's so many challenges you face at every stage in your life. So I think it's really about adapting, as they said, adapting with each other, and sort of changing with times. I think you have to keep changing and evolving in a relationship. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to move forward.
Well, that's very beautifully put. Maharani ji.
So the key to a good marriage, happy marriage, is, I think, authenticity, that you are able to be yourself entirely in front of your spouse. And if you are, then you are well aware of the person that you are with and what to expect from him, and vice versa. And that's where realistic expectations will start, with true authenticity with each other.
Mr. Maity?
Marriage is a bridge between two souls and mind. It's a sangam, and it's mixed like, water and milk, and made out. The both is a lassi. So it is pure sangam of emotion, love, togetherness, feeling, happiness, joy, and celebration.
Anu?
I think marriage is as complex or as simple as you want to make it. I think it's, if you strip everything away, you strip away all the ego, like Maharani ji said, you strip away all the unrealistic expectations, and then it's ultimately at the heart of it really is two people who want to be with each other, and that should be the only thing that that really matters.
Thank you all of you for joining me, and with that, it's a wrap on this journey on matters of the heart. Here's wishing you all a lot of success in all things marriage, and for those of you who are not married, do remember to keep it simple and authentic. Goodbye and see you soon.